folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. So I thought I would once again give you guys all a reminder of what you should be doing right now to get ready. Now, of course, we don't know exactly what's going to happen and how bad it's going to be, but we've talked about it on here many times. And I think a lot of you kind of have a pretty good idea that things are going to start getting worse. There's not really any indication that things are just going to miraculously start getting better for us. So while we still have the time left, and we may be shorter than some of us think, we should be doing everything we can to get ourselves ready. So while I know a lot of you are actively doing this, I thought I would just give you a little friendly reminder of some of the real basic things that you can be doing right now to get ready, because you're going to feel real bad about yourself if things happen soon and things start to get worse soon, and you're not doing what you should be doing now to get ready. I mean, think about how quickly things changed a couple of years ago when you first started hearing stories and reports about everyone getting a little and then it just seemed like overnight it exploded, and we started seeing lockdowns and mandates and people run into the store filling their baskets full of things that they had no idea what they were doing. That could very well happen again, but much worse, and it could happen at that same rate of speed. And with everything that's already going on in the world and all the damage to all of our systems, it could be pretty severe. So definitely take advantage of the time that you have left to continue to prepare, and that's what this video is about. It's just a little encouragement along the way. Number one, and this isn't any real order of importance, but number one, continue stocking up on food. Right now, food is the biggest thing that's going to be taking a hit, because we're being told of increased prices in food and food scarcity. There's shortages in some areas. I know some of you keep saying that, well, in my area, my store shelves are still filled, and that's expected. This is a huge country, okay? And to expect to see widespread shortages right now is probably just not going to happen. There's definitely areas that still are doing pretty well for themselves, while other areas aren't. But it's going to continue happening. There are shortages already in areas. Many of you go to stores right now, and your store shelves are bare in a lot of places, and it's just hard to get the things that you want to get. So it is coming to everyone eventually. But keep stocking up on everything that you can. Prices are getting higher. It's getting harder to go out and do a lot of big bulk buying, mostly just because of the money. And of course, like I said, in some areas, they just don't have enough for you to really stock up if you wanted to. But do everything that you can to do that. And then along with just buying the food, you need to work on your food security. And when I talk about that, I mean your independence from the system. You need to be planting your own food, creating your own food, growing and producing your own food. So you're going to need seeds for gardens. You're going to need garden tools. If you're capable of having any type of livestock, chickens, goats, sheep, pigs, cows, whatever, you need to get that kind of buttoned down, and then definitely have a plan for the food to feed them, because with all the grain prices and stuff, it's already is expensive. Some animal feeds in the last 2 years have gone up 40-50%. It's going to continue to get more expensive, and it's going to be harder to get that stuff. So kind of have a plan to get that stuff too. But then also you need things to process all that food. You need canning supplies. And here again, there are places that those are becoming harder and harder to find, but you need to have canning supplies, things to can. If you don't know what you're doing with canning, you can get some good books on how to can, and then things to also process your food in other ways, meat processing things and tools, and then, stuff like a dehydrator or something like that is very beneficial when processing your garden. But the main thing overall is just have a really solid food plan, as solid as you're capable of. And that's all depends on your physical capabilities and your financial capabilities, but certainly have a plan to do the best that you can. Along with that, heating, cooking, and your waste. Have plans for that. It's still cold in a lot of places. It's cold here today. It's snowing off and on all day, and many of you are already experiencing that. And we don't know that this might happen while it's still cold. So you need to have a plan for that. Have a plan to be able to cook your food. because we don't know what's going to happen. There could be a cyber attack or something that would take out the grid, or fuel supplies. If you use certain heating fuels and cooking fuels, could become very expensive, or there could be shortages of them. So have a plan for that. And then obviously also your waste, and that'll go with something else that we're going to talk about at the end of this. Make sure that you have a plan to deal with your waste. If for some reason you can't have it taken out to the trash can and have it hauled away, or if it's your human waste. I know that sounds extreme, but it's a common problem that a lot of people don't think about. That if things were really in a bad way, what are you going to do with that? So you need to have a plan for that. And other things is communication. You need to have a plan for communication. If you're part of a family, a husband, wife, you need to be able to know how to communicate with them. What if something happens while one of them's at work? Different plans to communicate, and then maybe family members outside your home, having portable radios, ham radios, depending on the distance away, some of those might work. And then also having plans on possibly how to meet, where to meet. If that's, if you're trying to connect with a husband that's at work, you need to know how he's going to get home. Talk about routes to come home, and if they're stuck, maybe places halfway that you could meet to get him, or an older child or something that's in school or in college or something. Have plans like that in place of meeting places, and know the routes that they would take to come home. Um, because as we've seen during storms here, natural emergencies, and also we saw happening over in Ukraine, when people in mass start trying to run away from the problem, it creates a lot of hysteria and confusion and congestion. And so you certainly need to have plans for that. Your money. I'm not a money expert, and I'm not here to advise you on that. You can find other YouTube channels that can do that. But my personal plan is to have some liquid money, your money in a liquid form, where you can use it, not locked away in an account that you may not have access to it if there was some type of cyber attack, or a bank shutdown or anything like that. So have some that you can use, some cash on hand, and then also hard assets. Your metals, your gold and silver, and we'll talk about lead here in just a second. That's the next one. But gold and silver are certainly things that you should have in case the dollar collapses or inflation just continues to rise rapidly, because in the end, that's always going to work for a lot of things. That's kind of the fallback when it comes to money, is your gold and silver. And then I mentioned the lead. Firearms and ammunition right now, that's one of the few things that's actually not going up in price. They're actually coming down. Most new firearms or new used firearms have actually come down in price. And for whatever reason that I can't explain, last year, there was this buying frenzy on guns, and so that caused the price to go up. And since the start of this year, there's been a lot less people buying guns. And it seems to be, at least from the information that I've been reading, that a lot of the people that probably were buying last year turn around and selling this year. So it's caused a recent little dip in firearm and ammunition prices. And so that might be a good time to take advantage of that and buy what you need. And then, and I mentioned earlier the grid. You need a plan to be without power. Just because there's food shortages and inflation and things like that, you think, well, what's that have to do with the grid? Well, we're also talking about cyber warfare, possible attack to the grid. There are possibilities. And I mentioned in a video just the other day about, and I think maybe it was over on Patreon, about the extreme vulnerability of our grid. There is right now a massive transformer shortage. Transformers that keep our grid running, they're in extreme short supply. And I've spoken with several industry experts that say that they can't get them. And a lot of people, a lot of companies are saying that it will be, 2 to 5 years before they can acquire them. So it puts our grid in a very vulnerable position. So make sure you have a plan, if at all possible, to exist for a while without electricity. What would you do? And a lot of people don't think about that, because we expect the electricity to always come on when we flip the light switch. Well, there's a possibility that won't happen someday. And so what is your plan when that day happens? Your vehicles, get your vehicles in the best running condition you can. If you can, have some extras on hand to do oil changes and change belts and change the brakes, just your general maintenance stuff, because automotive parts have been hard to get in the last couple of years because of the supply chain. This lockdown, the current lockdown that China is now going through again, will most likely intensify our supply chain problems. And a lot of parts do come from China. So I would advise getting your vehicles running as good as possible, and learning how to do some maintenance on them, and maybe having a few extra spark plugs and belts and things like that on hand in case they in case they fail and you're not able to get them. And then you need to talk to close friends, have a plan, close friends and family, kind of your mag, your tribe, your crew. And even if you don't have that set up, some of you do just have close friends and family that you can talk to about this, and they're kind of on the same page. We'll start talking to them about, well, what are we going to do if something really bad happens? How are we going to communicate? Where are we going to meet? And maybe we can barter and trade with each other. Or what are the things that we can help each other out with? Start having those conversations now. It's better to have them now than after the fact. It's just going to make it more complicated. So certainly start those conversations. For those of you that have friends and family that you can have those conversations with, certainly start having those conversations now. And then last but not least is really just kind of the overall thing. I would advise overall to be capable and have a plan in place as much as you possibly can to hunker down in your home for 90 days. Doesn't mean that you're going to, doesn't mean that that's what's happening. But if you have a plan in place that you have the capability of hunkering down for at least 90 days, that means you have a pretty good overall plan. You can survive pretty well. And you need to think about the different aspects of your life, and how you can make them work by just staying locked up and bugging in for at least 90 days. And again, all the stuff that's happening doesn't necessarily mean that that will happen. It just means that you're going to be much more prepared. If you're capable of bugging in for 90 days, you're going to be way more prepared than just by stocking up on a few things. So I think that should be one of your first big goals, is just having that capability. And then from there on, you could extend that out to 1 year if you wanted to. But having the food, the supplies, and the tools and the capability to kind of hunker down for at least that long, that's a pretty solid preparedness plan right there. And so I would do that if at all possible. I understand everyone's in a different place geographically, a different place in their life, different place in their finances. So it's different for everyone, but kind of go over these basic things and see what you can do and what you can accomplish. And just know that everything that you do is putting you that much closer to being really prepared. It's all just a big insurance policy in the end. You're putting money and time and energy into an insurance policy that'll help you take care of you and get you through a really rough spot as all these global problems and domestic problems just worsen, because that's exactly what they're doing. All right, folks, hope this helps. Thank you all for watching. Get your house in order, though. That's the big thing. Just get your house in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and most especially spiritually. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.